everyone. Great. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen and we'll get started. Now, great stuff. So you guys can all see my screen. 1 second. And great stuff. Great. So you guys can see the main screen. It says branding that converts sales. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Brilliant, amazing. So yeah, I'll get started. Yeah, just to say thanks very much everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. And yeah, and there's a lot to cover, but we'll go through and yeah, some slides will stay on longer, but it's all structured. And I'll also conduct a mini audit with a great volunteer, Remy, who's here today, which is great. And yeah, and then it'd be great to have some Q&A as well at the end. So yeah, got loads to cover. But yeah, so branding that converts sales is the topic, and convert sales, it's conversions. It's taking one state, a consumer, a customer, or prospect that comes aware of your business. It doesn't have to be converting to sales, but it's the action in mind that you want people to follow. And I'll explain more of that in a moment as we go through it. But yeah, great stuff. So yeah, so you can see here my slide on a timeline basically. And you'll see here, there's not many straight lines because in my experience, it's not one thing to the other. There's ups, downs, 2 steps forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's generally how life is in reality. I hope you'd agree. More going forward than backwards always. But in 2011, I graduated in advertising, studied in the university in the UK, and worked in an agency then for a year, and lots of projects in between, but communication was always the core of what I do and still do today. 2015, branded a cocktail bar, a bar in Cardiff in the UK, in Wales. They wanted to rebrand, and I was a designer, so the guys taught interior design. Shane, you can do that. So yeah, so I had to go at rebranding a cocktail bar, taking it from one particular clientele, which was textbook rugby crowd, and then completely changing it to a completely different vertical, which was a high-end Asian themed cocktail bar. So like the message is, it's always important to understand who you're talking to, then cater the product message, product service to the intended audience. And then went freelance. It wasn't an easy road by any means, many times in corporate as well. And I enjoy working with people with a corporate experience, because I know what it's like to be in a business where, you know, decisions are so slow to be made, and it takes meetings after meetings and then the meetings to cover the previous meeting. So I enjoy working with people that, you know, want to give their business idea the best foot forward. And design is problem solving, so we're coming up with a solution, and it's really important for me. So that's a bit of my background. Little fun side project just to give you an idea of like what I like. Myself and a friend, we worked on a game last year. We launched it just when COVID was happening, and yeah, we had a target of 1,000 people. We wanted them to download this game that we made. I did the branding and design. It's like yeah, it's very friendly, but we had a target of 1,000 downloads, and we just hit over 7,000. And that's available on Android and iOS. So it just goes to show the power of knowing a target or objective, and just, you know, sustained growth happens over time. But it was really fun working with a friend, and we put something out there. So it was really cool. And yeah, you can free to download that if you like. Yeah, so what I'd like to talk about before I get into the crux of my work, I'm going to cover some important elements to what I do. And also then I'll just go through some case studies just to demonstrate the success some of my clients have had because of the work that they've done. And I've just helped. Like the clients I work with, they're the real people, heroes in the journey, and I'm just facilitating and helping them. But just to cover what a brand is, because there's a lot of people with a lot of voices out there about this sort of subject and matter. And a brand is an impression. It's what people say about your product or service. And branding is the intentional effort you make about your business, how it's heard, how it's understood, the qualities that people connect with. And just a fun little bit of trivia.
branding and a brand. The term comes from Vikings as a blacksmith. You know, a blacksmith would make a weapon and he would make his impression. He would brand the product, and it's a signifier of quality. So it sells and people are aware that that person made that product. So it really is just a brand and an impression that we make, and what we do is a signal to attract the right customer, because the wrong customer is too expensive. And a quote that I really like about this that helps is, you may have the most brilliant idea for a brand, but if you cannot compel the consumer to make a purchase, you have nothing. And I think that's quite powerful. Another element of what I do, of course, is communication. So communication is, you know, it's not just about putting stuff out there and magically expecting people to comprehend what it is you're doing. The inherent function of communication is to make a change happen, to make people aware. You know, like say you're chatting to kids, nieces, nephews, your own children. If you ask them to pick up after themselves, you're not asking them that to have a conversation. You want an action to happen. And that's the inherent purpose of communication, to make change happen, to cause a change in the marketplace commercially. And a quote that I like about communication itself is, affecting change is the inherent function of all communication. And that's from a guy called Faris Jacob. He wrote a book called Paid Attention, which is fantastic. It's like philosophy in the realm of marketing and advertising. A really excellent book. And yeah, it just backs up what I say, where it's like, you're communicating to make a change. And the other elements that I think is really important with the work that I do and the problems that I solve for clients is design. There we go. So design. Design itself, like many people confuse design with art. Art and design, they always fit in the same categories in school and university and so on. But design itself is, well, it's like the quote says here, it's a formal response to a strategic question. And there's an image here I like to use in a second. Just load. Yeah, well, it's like when you come across a stop sign, for example, anywhere on the planet, it's like a red octagon, simple shape. It says stop. And the whole purpose of that kind of symbol is that there we go. This shape, it's an octagon. It's not something you see in nature. It's been made by people. And here we have this example that says stod, which in Irish means stop. And I mention this because it doesn't matter what part of the planet you're from, this sign has been designed in a way to be clearly understood. The message is to make you aware to stop. And and it's designed. The difference between art and design is purpose-based. You know, you're trying to, again, make someone aware of a product, service, or in this case, a stop sign. And it doesn't happen by accident. It's all about having a particular objective in mind. And just that quote again, design is the response to a strategic question. And so it's these things, you know, I've talked about here, which is brand, communication, and design. And like, they sound really nice, and I get that. They sound like great things for any business to have. But what's the objective with it? Well, I mean, this is it. Design and brand and communication, for a business point of view, it delivers what's called a brand strategy. Like, our products, businesses, and service exist in the realm. We want people to, you know, be aware of the design and the brand, and we want to communicate the purpose that we want and the change that we want to make in the marketplace. And whether we realize that or not, we all have a brand, same with the commercially, but also personally. But if we don't have a strategy behind it, then we're leaving a lot to chance. And I think having a clear goal, a set of clear objectives, and overall a brand strategy solves a lot of problems. And one tool that I like to talk to today primarily is, of course, what's called brand guidelines. So a brand guideline is it's a clearly defined rules and standards that show how your brand should be represented in the world. Brand guidelines help businesses ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. And it really is a playbook, and it's a helpful for, you know, how to communicate what you do, but also if you get staff, it's a playbook that ensures consistency. And in the realm of getting people to know, like, and trust what you do, yeah, we're not leaving such important things to chance. And that's the whole point of having a brand strategy and the important tool of a brand guideline. Brand guidelines, here we have it. They cover many things, primarily positioning. You know, this is how you come across in the marketplace, the message, personality. Brands, like, people have personalities because they want to connect with a specific customer or clientele or what have you. And, you know, the marketplace is so incredibly busy that to stand out, these are really important features that we need to cover. So yeah, what I'm going to do is going to go through 3 case studies, and these are examples of clients that I've worked with and the difference that, you know, they've made because of the strategy that we worked on together. It's always a collaboration with myself and clients because their success is mine. And that sounds cheesy, but it is true, because like, I want my clients to do really well because I invest in them and I believe in their cause, and I just think it's really important. So their success is mine. So I'll talk about the first case study. Yeah. So Alan Boyle, who is here today, thanks, Alan. Alan runs a consultancy firm, and he specializes in helping business leaders scale. And he does it by challenging how things are and improving, and, you know, just improving things. And very much his objective is helping his clients navigate change. And I worked with Alan at the start when COVID was just happening last year. So it was a really tumultuous time for almost every business. So it was a real I don't know, baptism of fire, or whatever you want to say, but to, you know, to help launch a business in the midst of a global pandemic, real challenge itself. So, you know, to launch a consultancy firm that helps his clients overcome challenge among that time is just, you know, a testament to what he does. So my point is, it's really important to, you know, work on his brand and his business. That's important. The services I delivered for Saltwater Consulting, which is the name of Alan's business, it's a strategy, logo design, brand guidelines, and just focus on the market research, but also who is the ideal customer. Because it's all about that. It's such an important component. Who is it that you're talking to from your business point of view? Because we can't talk to everyone, because then we really talk to no one. So, like, everything starts with pencil and paper. It was coming up with a brand identity, which is how the business looks in the marketplace. And it's not pretty, but like my sketches, it's just about getting ideas out there and working through different versions and coming up with, you know, not treating ideas as precious. You know, this is an art where we're solving a problem, such as how to stand out in the marketplace. And I was lucky enough to work with Alan, and still do. And we were able to work together to develop, initially, like, focus from here to solve the problem of an identity, which was a logo design for Alan. And this is just the very start. Like, people often confuse brand design or brand identity or identity design with just pretty pictures, because that's what they see first. So I understand that, but how a business looks is just the surface level. That's the first thing people see. But there's a lot of thinking behind it. Like, again, me going on about brand strategy, it's quite important. Well, this logo we came across, and it was a really good process. Very much a collaboration, because I work with clients and take on board their feedback, and the logo itself is quite nice. I'm proud of it, and I hope Alan is. And the little square there that's missing in between the 2 yellow shapes, like, this represents a pier, which is kind of safety, or at least a launch pad or a problem solving, because at the crux of it, that's what Alan does with his company, Saltwater Consulting. It's providing, you know, a bit of stability and solving problems that his clients have. And from here, I mean, this is just the identity, but from here, with a plan in mind, because we understand who his consumer, his ideal audience is, we're able to do a lot more than just make pictures. We're able to make decisions based off strategy, This is a wireframe off his website. So he's able to hand it off to his web people, and they're able to go forward and answer problems in a really strategic and well thought out way. Like, this just complements online marketing, and it gets taken from here, and it gets taken more places from here. From here, it's like videos and blogs. We have clarity on who his ideal audience is. So it may be people in tech or founders encountering problems, maybe in their operations. But we did a series of videos, and we still do, that are issues that are important to his audience, because we don't make a business of what we like and our problems. We go out into the marketplace to solve other people's problems. And and from strategy comes the video, but then also comes things like infographics, images. Now, he communicates to not just his ideal audience on LinkedIn and Twitter and other social media channels, but talks about issues that are important to people in that surrounding area. So things like the types of meetings, issues of scaling and hiring. All these factors are important issues for the people he wants to talk to. And my point is, all of these things are completely possible. Making images, making videos, they're all possible. Anyone can do it. But the fact is, brand guidelines, which is what I'm a big proponent of, this sustained growth in mind, they allow it to happen in accordance with a plan. And the results was, like, I think we were working together 18 months. The results for this new business launched in amongst the global pandemic, 18 months later, it's confidence in how the business looks to his audience, but also supporting people to that, people in operations or people in hiring or HR, business growth. So the business is scaling itself and excelling. So why would you not signal that success? And ultimately, this means you're at the front of mind of the right audience. Specific customer clarity, having clarity on the audience, you know who you're talking to. It means you're not wasting resources on people that aren't your audience, and that makes things a lot easier. So you're saving time, money, and resources. And that brand awareness, ultimately helping people make the right choice easier. And let's see now if. So I've been working with Alan for 18 months, and the work we've done is quite important, and I'm pretty proud of the work that we've done. And as Alan here himself says, a testimonial from him is brilliant throughout the process, clearly explaining each step along the way. And at the time, Zoom really took over. So it was providing support, answering questions, very much a collaboration, like I say. And I enjoy working with Alan, and still do to this day. And the second case study I'd just like to cover is a company called Notice. Notice is a software company that is embedded in universities and colleges all over the UK. And it just wants, its purpose is to make entrepreneurs in the surrounding areas of educational bodies aware of the resources that's available for them. So if you're starting up a new business, it could be big, small, whatever, or any stage, you would connect with Notice, this tech platform that enables you to be aware of all grants and opportunities that you may miss out on. So it's quite important, because if you're not in the know, you're at risk of missing out. So I worked with the founder of Notice, and the problems that we solved, it all starts with a brief. You can see this page here on the right, very clear document that clearly outlines what it is my clients would get: logo design and market research. And we're just, before entering a marketplace, you need to do your homework. And that's kind of what I provide to my clients. I take it pretty serious and do market research to find out what the landscape is like, because you don't know how to stand out unless you know how to stand out from others. Here it is again, the ideal audience. So this is keeping in mind, this is a persona, so a fictitious person, but you'll see here, this guy, it's like early 40s, mid 40s, guy who works in finances, they may be in a banking sector, because Notice, the company I worked for, their objective was to get funding. So they wanted to talk to guys in finance, mid-level to senior, because they wanted to secure funding to take this idea further. And the thing here is, this persona,
there's a lot of visual language here in terms of colors, patterns, text, because we're making an identity, a logo, and that is a visual thing, obviously, but there needs to be the thought behind what does this persona like, this bank manager, senior mid-level, how do we make our company the easiest choice for him? And oftentimes these kind of visual decisions can really be a signal that this business is the right choice for him to make, so we could secure funding. And Chris, the founder of the company, went on and we took this further. From here, we're able to develop a concept. It all starts with pen and paper, but here we see a later stage where it's the elements that are important to notice this company is community, guidance, and connecting. And then, of course, the name of the company begins with an N, so we're trying to incorporate the N as well, just to keep it relevant, but to make it look suitable for the industry that's in. Here's the logo that we came up with. It works. Logos, if they don't work in black and white, they don't work, but they also need to work in different color schemes and patterns and so on. And to get my client excited to what his identity for his business could look like, we show it in different mock-ups. This is a tech software, so why wouldn't I show my client how it would look on a tech landscape, on a phone, an app? But to take it further than there, the app, the logo design and the identity, it also is at events and press releases. So we try to get the client really excited about how their business and what the vision of that business looks like in the real world. Because it's one thing looking at a flat piece of paper, but to get people excited about it, that's what's really important, because it is important. And the results of working with this client, he was able to go forward and secure funding of £10,000. He got that from investors. He had clarity on who, we do workshops to try and get those brand guidelines on clarity on the ideal audience, customer clarity, and also this just helps if you know who you're talking to. It makes that brand awareness a lot easier. And I have a quote here from Chris. The workshops at the beginning of the process really encourage you to think about your company, the offering, and your vision, and ultimately sparks ideas, because I'm doing loads of market research. So we're going to have ideas. And again, hammering home that collaborative elements of what I do with clients. And and fair play to Chris, he took it further and he got funding and he's taking his business further. The final case study of myself is with an ethical jewelry business. It's an ethical jewelry company that wants to redefine what luxury means in the 21st century. And like, being honest, this was a high-end, it was two sisters were the founder of this company. And their audience, the first thing I ask clients is, who is the ideal audience? Who is it you want to talk to? And it was quite a little bit, and I hope the guys don't mind, but it was a little bit fuzzy. Like, who is the ideal audience? I asked them, and it was 20, 30, 40-year-old women with a disposable income. And that's the start. We need to take it a bit more further and get clarity on that. And so, like, the brief, again, the project, it starts with logo design and market research and just working on messaging. And from here, this is the logo before. So this was the name of the company, Green Moss Designs. Now, the logo itself, this is like, I didn't do this, but it's clear and it's got hints of India, because the two sisters who found it were heavily inspired by their time in India. So what they wanted to do is they took jewelry design from India, inspired by the culture, and they wanted to sell it to a Western audience. And they also had the ethical background in it, where they wanted to lift up communities. So this was always at the crux of what they wanted to do, but I just kind of helped them get clarity on how do you articulate such a big message. And also the concept of luxury. Like, going into this, one of the advantages of me going into an industry I don't know much about is I come in, not knowing much. So it means I'm eager to do market research and learn a lot more, particularly around the concept of luxury and what it is. Like, I had some misunderstandings about what luxury was, definitely. And through my research, I got to learn that luxury is signaling excellence in terms of how it's made. It could be jewelry or fashion, whatever the case may be. But we took this logo and the guys weren't too happy with the name. they picked this logo primarily out of frustration because they were exhausted in terms of doing everything. They were sourcing, packaging, making sure it was ethical. And they just picked this out of frustration. They were like, fine, we could just go with that, it's cool. But working with me and asking the right questions, we were able to develop a new logo and also change the name of the business. So let's see. So the name that was picked, we went with was Zora Couture. They have an element of embroidery and fashion that they want to incorporate. And it's that the Western culture mixes with the Eastern influence as well of Indian culture. So Zora is actually Urdu, language for bravery and making a stand and light and making a real change. And couture, of course, is French. It's that embroidery sense, but also, you know, it's the influence, that Western influence mixed with the Eastern influence that they want to communicate. And also the founders, their names began with a Z and a C as well. So there's a common, you know, it's collaboration. It's taking both influences there. And they also want to expand just from jewelry also into fashion. But again, it's me getting them excited about what their brand could be. And let's just see there now. That's the next slide. Yes, so taking it from what it was at the moment and taking it further. So getting clients excited about what it looks like in packaging. And the same again, like the client's success stems from their results were ideal customer focus. They had specific brand statements, you know, who it is, what they do, and how to communicate that a lot easier because it's such a crowded marketplace. And that's what branding can do. And also with the brand guidelines as well. Brand guidelines can be like a 20-page document or it can be a 2-page slide. It's very depending on the problem we're solving. And Catherine here, one of the sisters founding it, she left a very nice testimonial, which was Shane understood our brand and vision and he worked at it like it was his own brand. Shane has elevated our brand and created a clearer path for us to pursue into the market with confidence. And that's what comes with understanding who it is, what you do, and who you serve. You're not wasting resources on people that are not your customer. And it's quite liberating because you've more clarity. And yeah, that's 3 case studies that have helped in the past 18 months. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the work that we've done and using brand, communication, and design to solve problems. So that effectively wraps up my section here on case studies. And as part of this talk today, I wanted to just further highlight some of the problems that I solve. And one of those products is indeed kindly Remy, who is here today. He volunteered to be part of what's called a mini brand audit. So a brand audit is a service that I offer for clients. And yeah, and like I said, Remy was good enough to volunteer. So what I've done here is just conducted a little mini audit. And yeah, is there any, well, yeah, I'll get to Q&A just after, but yes, so I'll carry on with this. Yes, let's see.
Do you want me to spotlight you and Remy? Are you going to have a conversation or?
Yeah, that sounds great, Aaron. Yeah, Remy, you're here. Do you want to like we engaged and had a conversation and I've done some work here. So let's see. Remy, can you? Yeah, so let's see there.
Okay, so I've spotlighted you, but because we are sharing the presentation, but I think you're on top. Everybody can see you now.
Cool. Remy, can you chime in at the moment, or will I just crack on and keep talking?
No, of course. Do you want me to jump in first?
Yeah, please. I mean, yeah, I connected with you there like a few days ago, and we got chatting about your business, and yeah, and I'm just going to chat about it. But like, do you want to have a say about like your offering and from your own words, maybe?
Of course, yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me first to for this case study, and hi to everyone. A very brief introduction about what we do, so you guys understand better what is the business here, and also the purpose of branding within my business, at least. I have first I have a banking background, so I've worked in finance in London for 5 years. Before I left banking and decided to do finance for entrepreneurs, for myself and for them. So I've been doing this for like 2 or 3 years now. And I've launched Sharp Sheets actually 18 months ago. And to put it very simply, Sharp Sheets is a website whereby entrepreneurs who are, from idea phase to raising Series A or plus, can get information around finances, how to raise capital, whether it is from public sources like grants, for example, but also, of course, investor money. So we have a web app and we have templates that people can use that are business specific and so on. And I'm doing also a little bit of consulting on the side. So this is a very brief introduction just to give you an overview of what we do and how it ties into the conversation with Shane.
Amazing. Cool. Thanks, Remy. Yeah, so like I said, Remy was kind enough to put his name down, and credit to Remy today. Yeah, bit of a spotlight, literally and figuratively. But yeah, so what I've done is connected with Remy, done a bit of Q&A. A brand audit is usually like, it takes me a week to turn around, but this is just a mini version of it, and I'll just go through a few little topics. And by no means, like, I'm not here to say all the terrible things, or like, it's just more constructive, and it's such an important thing about feedback, that it's constructive and it comes from a good place. And and I'll just cover some of the topics that I've noticed just by connecting with Remy, and also just reviewing some of the topics. So I'm just covering 3 topics quickly there today, and this is the positioning, the brand message, and the brand identity. Normally a brand audit covers a little bit more, but for the sake of everyone being kind enough to be here, and yeah, you're probably all sick of my voice at this stage, but these are the topics that I'll cover, so I'll love to just quickly go over some of them. One thing I thought was, and it is really cool about Remy's approach and Sharp Sheets, the business itself, it's simplifying fundraising for entrepreneurs. It's a web app and bootstrap. This statement is on Remy's LinkedIn, and it's gold in itself, because it's making something that's complicated or a lot of work, it's making it more simple. And also that web app feature and that bootstrap. So people can avail of Sharp Sheets by either buying the templates, learning about the templates, but then also taking part in the web app itself. So you're making it a complicated process already easy by breaking down how it works for people. And I think that's super valuable and incredibly valuable for people who are either time poor and want to get the best out of their business, because by bringing to market, we're bringing a product or service that solves a problem for people, and to not make people aware of the good that we offer, it's not the best. But I mean, it's such a strong concept that's really cool. Let's see, next slide if it would. And let's see. Great. So having a look at the brand message. A brand message refers to the underlying value proposition conveyed and the language used in the content itself. We have a few examples here of what a brand message. This could be as simple as a tagline mixed with a nice image to complement the product or service, but it's all about the problem we solve for other people. It's not about what we do. It's just making people aware in a tagline or a statement. We're trying to say as much about the business as possible in a really succinct and fast way, because people's attention span or the competition offerings are so vast. So this is the value of a clear message, the value proposition conveyed. And this is why we use images combined with text because we want to capture and retain information or retain attention. And by using as little text, but as saying as much as possible that is relevant to them. It's by no means an easy thing, But you know, anything we're doing is oftentimes not that easy, but we can communicate the value through using taglines and such like that, messaging. Let's just see what else I got here. Yeah, so looking at the brand identity, so having a look at the landscape that exists in, you know, providing a service to people that want to get funding. This is me. I just grabbed a few images online, and there's heavy use of blues and colors. Like, I'm guilty of this myself, but blue in the Western landscape conveys confidence and stability. These are incredibly important values. But if we have a look at, these are elements that exist already in the marketplace. So heavy use of blues. So I think there's an expression, if everyone zigs, then you have to zag. So it just means doing something different. So from an identity point of view, looking different isn't that difficult in this landscape, because all the competition are primarily heavily using blue and white and clear text like that. So using design, we can come up with, if we already see what everyone else is doing, it makes it easier to figure out what we could do differently. And designing an identity is just the first step in that, because you need to be aware of what the competition are doing. Let me see what else we got here. One sec there now. Let me just end this. There we go. Sweet. Let me see. Cool. I know I've stopped sharing, but one second. There we go. Sweet. So this is some other work that I did here. You can see the brand message that we've already covered, but also the brand message, it extends further, not just on the visual side of things, but also on the language itself. I'll just make it full screen. Sharp sheets. So some of the terminology and words that we could use here is, we see on the left, it's an app for powerful fundraising, made simple. We're making something complex way more simple. Dynamic funding, made easy. So again, we're not just selling a product or service. It's not just a template. It's the state of how that person's life is a lot easier after purchasing. So it's just communicating how much easier we're making things. On the right, we have tech funding. I know primarily you're not focused on the tech, if that's the direction you want to go in the future, there we go, that's fine. But it's picking a lane and sticking to it, because that saves us time. Let's see. We can see another one, the brand message. Like you can see here, it's you can see the screen that says location, location, location with the social media icons. Can you see that?
Oh, we can't see it here.
No, 1 second now. I'll just try again. Share screen. Sorry about this, folks. Great. Okay. Now. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, brand message. There's just like conversations are happening. Remy is really good at when it comes to writing. So a platform like LinkedIn and Twitter, conversations are happening here. So really using your strengths on different platforms, and you know, it's making you look like the authority with the person who has these tools that you can sell to make people's life easier. Again, I've already covered the brand identity itself. And this is it, just to wrap up ourselves. Branding, when merged with business goals, you can garnish attention, create awareness, make things more efficient, but also ultimately get revenue, because that's what all this is, an effort. If a business doesn't make money, it's a hobby. So these are things that are important. And there's a few other points, but Remy, what I can do is I can happily connect with you later and share some of these things. Absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much. Remy, do you have any questions or any thoughts on anything I've just covered there? Because I know I've just stormed through it there.
No, of course. I have this is maybe specific to my case, but I was wondering actually. As you put it rightly before, I'm dealing with entrepreneurs. So there is a fine line between B2C and B2B, because some of these entrepreneurs, as I said, they're literally on the idea phase, right? So they're literally like people who haven't even incorporated any company whatsoever. And on the other side, I'm also dealing with people who are already making like a lot of revenue. So how can you and maybe this is a tough question, sorry about this, but how can you build a brand or tagline that explain your business in a very simple way to both business and B2C customers? How would you approach that?
So like strategy is being aware of all the decisions that you could make, but making an informed decision just to pick a lane and go down one road if it's a broad spectrum of people that you're communicating to, by picking a certain audience, that makes things easier. But if it's the people at the end of the chain, where they're the ones that have been successful in getting seed money or grants or whatever the case may be, that's the end state you want to communicate to businesses of all that spectrum. So painting a picture of what success looks like and the role that you played in providing a product or service to get those people to that state. Like having pictures of people using the slides, like I have a few bits of slides on this, I'll share with you later, but it's just about showing people using your product, because then we're painting a picture of what success looks like. And that's what people are buying. They're buying the end state. They're not buying the work that they need to do, or, you know, you're not guiding them to the buy now button and just hoping for the best. You're trying to nudge them towards what their vision looks like. We serve other people, so it's just about that. And obviously totally happy to chat to you later about this too.
Okay.
Hope that helps in some way.
No, of course, very happy to link up. Yeah, of course, discussing this more in private. But thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Remy. Thank you. And yeah, and that concludes. And yeah, so 42 minutes. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll stop sharing now, and just very grateful for everyone for attending and listening to me. Yeah. So,
yeah, great. Thank you very much, Shane. Really interesting. And I think the case studies are very helpful, because it really shows to everybody the challenges of having a brand that works, you know. And we have if people can put the camera back, we can have a little bit of conversation now. And in the audience, we have different type of business. So we really have small businesses, individuals, and then we have larger companies. And maybe you know, one of the challenge with the brand is to have the message, the brand message. You are talking about the brand guidelines, and now that you can be promoting your company through so many different channels, you know, social media, email, website. I guess the challenge now, and digital and non-digital, is really to how do you make sure that your brand has a clear message across all the different platforms, and also, you know, depending if you're a big or a large or medium-sized companies, to make sure that everybody is clear about the guidelines and what the brand and the company is all about. Because you can spend a lot of time developing a great logo, a great strategy, and then, for instance, a customer service, a bad experience from a client might, you know, put that in jeopardy. So I think it's that's the challenge, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge, no doubt about it. But I'd say with those brand guidelines and just having focus on who the ideal customer is, because I understand there's social media platforms like there's so many. I understand that, and we can't spread ourselves too thin. But we have an understanding of where our audience most likely hangs out, be it LinkedIn, or maybe it's even a younger audience. It could be like TikTok or whatever the case may be. So it's providing value on the platform that our audience hangs out on or spends the most time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that comes through understanding market research, but also who is that customer. It's not easy, but it's definitely worthwhile.
And do you design the logo yourself, or you outsource, or?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to have a team that I work with for, depending on the job, if it's print, packaging, whatever the case may be, I outreach to a team that I work with. In some cases, I do the logo myself, and in some cases, I'll focus on the strategy and the workshops and maybe developing the brand guidelines or conducting the audit. And then in cases like that, I would outsource to people I trust.
Okay. So I'm sure there are some questions. If anybody wants to jump in, I don't think I have anything on the chat.
If it's okay, firstly, Shane, thanks for talking about me in the case study. It's always nice to see my brand, and nice for the audience, I'm sure. But it was interesting. I met Shane at a startup type conference, and he handed me a very, very well put together business card, and it was thick. It was thicker than most business cards, and it was using letterpress, which was indented. So it was a very, very high quality business card. And it stood out amongst the other business cards that I had. And I contacted him the next day saying, look, the timing's right. I'm about to start a business. I need to get a logo done. And the relationship started with me wanting a logo done. And I had a very, very different vision of what the logo would look like. I came in thinking, sharp lines, whatever. And Shane gently steered me to what it needed to be. So that logo there wasn't my thinking, but it became my thinking very clearly. And when he started showing me the sharp designs that I had in mind versus that, it was amazing how I came around realizing, hang on, it's not about me, it's about my audience. But Shane, just a question for you. We started because I needed a logo, and it's evolved into you've given me a brand manifesto, and you're involved in a lot of what I do online now. But like, you do a number of things, right? From logos, you got different products, but like, what is the leading product? What is your ideal product that you want to get into a customer? Is it doing an audience and an audit and starting with brand, or is it building the relationship from scratch with a single design type project?
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, so that's a good question. And when it comes, like, every business is different, but I think the crux of it starts at reviewing the landscape and seeing what competitors are doing, and just being aware of how much people are investing in certain areas that we may not have considered, such as like market research or the messaging, or maybe they're doing an ad spend on like Google AdWords or LinkedIn. So I'm always a big fan of reviewing the landscape before we jump in, and that often starts in doing an audit. And as well as that, it's the quickest thing. It takes a week to turn around a brand audit, and it just demonstrates how people and competition are taking things serious in ways that we may not have considered. So I enjoy that, but I'm always up for discussion on other approaches. But oftentimes looking at the logo can just be the entry point. So it depends, really. But thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I think the mini audit is fantastic, Shane. I think it would help anybody really, whether they're entrepreneurs or anybody in business, established businesses even. It's no harm going over these things, no matter how many years you're in business. So I think that's fascinating too, because of the way you've incorporated, like, right down to colour, like you were talking about blue and confidence. So most of the Irish banks, as you know, they're probably the same worldwide, are blue. And these things resonate subconsciously with people. We don't even realise it. And for the entrepreneur or business person to understand all of that before you then go delve right in and do your end of work on it, I think is fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Bernadette. And this is it, yeah. When you see the market is saturated with like heavy blues and stuff, and from like color, the psychology of color is always dependent on the location you're communicating to. So reds mean an incredibly different thing, say in Asia and China primarily, just for example. But then reds might be too aggressive or too passionate for some areas. It's all about being appropriate for the industry that you're entering. But we don't know unless we review and see what exists in the marketplace, you know. But thank you so much. Thanks, Bernadette.
Okay. And also, I mean, you know, the title today of the webinar of masterclass was brand, you know, how to help brand to convert to sales. But it's always very difficult to measure that. You know, if you do an email or a direct marketing campaign, online, digital, you know, you can measure it. You can say, okay, X number of people have seen my message, X number of people have called us, etc. But a brand is always very difficult to measure the impact. How do you have any you know, ideas, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, I think you said it well there, where it's, you know, the metrics, the numbers, getting an idea of where you start, because then you can paint a picture and measure success in terms of how many impressions or how many website visits or follower liking, or if it's the right person engaging with you on social media. So it's just about measuring things, how they are, and then where you want them to be in, say, 90 days time, but setting a timeline, because then, you know, you can measure something, but only if you pay attention to it. So finding out what's important for the business, if it's conversion of sales or brand awareness or efficiency or revenue, just being aware of what it is and how we'd like to take it there. And that's designing a solution, you know. Hope that helps.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Arnold?
Sure.
Great presentation, Shane. I'm, as a self-employed person, I think one thing that really struck me is it's very overwhelming when you work for yourself. There's so many decisions that you have to make, and there's things that you will do gladly because it plays to your comfort zone. But I know for myself, and I still haven't got it right, is understanding where your potential clients are and communicating to them, because very often what you believe will resonate with them isn't what actually will. And very often you need that outside voice to help you to find, like that journey you took us through with Alan. What Alan very clearly said was what he had in mind is not what you ended up with at the end of the day, but you can see the satisfaction that he has and you both have in the journey that you took together. So for me, it's, you know, particularly, I definitely struggle with, you know, when you're trying to find, you know, the ideal, where they hang out, you know, what really resonates with them, how do you get in front of them? And it also challenges you and what it is that you're trying to achieve. And sometimes we ignore those things because we don't like them. So we pretend that it's not an issue. And helping the client, I imagine, to confront those takes a certain clarity and patience and a process that's very robust.
Well, fair play, absolutely. And there needs to be like an accountability, which is like as consultants, it's the good thing that you bring is an outsider's perspective, that you can highlight things that maybe people are not paying attention to or don't know the value of, because they've got so many hats, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners. You've got so much to do, but that outsider's perspective brings with it like research and also, you know, that different perspective. And I think that accountability, but also an important thing is empathy, where you understand, complemented by the outsider perspective, that the empathy of understanding what the customer or the ideal client wants, where they're hanging out. The value of an outsider's perspective is just why I'm hammering home there. But yeah, but thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, just Shane, by the way, great presentation. Thanks very much. Yeah. Just kind of echoing what Sharon was saying, yeah. You know, my experience of this, and we could be talking about branding or we could be talking about another subject for smaller businesses, is that very often we are masters of nothing, yeah. But we're quite emotionally attached to what we've actually done. So I totally agree in terms of, you know, the outside view and so on. That's very much what I do on different subjects. But how often, you know, do you know you're kind of doing the right thing and the client is absolutely determined, yeah, because you know, I don't know, they've painted everything bright green or something like this, and they absolutely love that color, however inappropriate it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, that's it. It's what they love. And I think when you bring the person, the business owner, entrepreneur, the person I work with, you bring them around to, yeah, what we love is really important, but we're not making a business that we love or we like. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have to like what we do, of course, but we're trying to make a business for someone else. So it's detaching ourselves from our own subject bias, what we love, what we like, and then just getting people on board. Well, you know, we're making for someone else. And sometimes you hit a bit of a brick wall where you're like, you know, a clash on views. But I think when you come from a place of, you know, this is based off research, we've looked at what the marketplace has and what the target audiences, what their tastes are. It's like me using a persona of a palette of based on design, what is appropriate design wise to make for them. And I think, yeah, just coming from a research and not coming with gut feeling, or if you have a gut feeling, back it up with some homework, you know?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the classic in Ireland is people using colours that are the same as their county team. Yeah.
Yeah, and get of course, Ireland, we love green. So like I worked with a charity and they love green and they wanted to hammer home that they're an Irish charity, and you know, some battles you lose and some you win, and it's a partnership, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you.
No worries, thank you. Nice one.
Okay, very good. I think we're coming to the hour, so I know everybody's busy. So thank you again, everybody, to have joined. So Shane is now based in Lisbon. So for the members here in Portugal, you know, there will be the chance to meet Shane. And actually, we're going to have a meet member on November the 4th at the embassy. November the 4th is the last day of the Web Summit. So maybe some of our Irish members will be there and can join us as well. We will continue with some, you know, I call them masterclass. If there is any subject that you would like us to tackle or to talk about, you know, just let me know. Just drop me an email, and we'll find somebody who can talk. Yeah, and that's it. So that's the last one of this series. We did one at the beginning of the year, and we'll probably maybe do one before the end of the year. I also said to Bernadette, for our members in Ireland, we will probably, well, no, we will certainly be in Ireland, in Dublin, in probably beginning of February. The date hasn't been confirmed, but we will confirm that soon, in the next couple of weeks. So as I said, we have a couple of members in presence in the Algarve on the 8th, on the November the 11th, in Lisbon on the 4th of November, and then we'll be in Porto. We'll do a first conference in Porto. I think, yeah, Christophe is there, because we're getting more interest and more members there as well. So we'll be there on November the 24th. Nothing has been announced yet, but we will announce it very shortly. Okay. I will share, Shane, if that's okay, if I share your presentation.
Oh yeah, no problem. And thanks very much for everyone for attending. And yeah, thanks very much for having us give a talk today, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Alan, as well, on Tuesday. Really great, great insight and you know, expertise. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day and weekend. Well, almost. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, bye-bye.